Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to see the development of heart part 3. In part 3, we are going to see the development of primitive atrium, how the development of right atrium and left atrium is developed, and the partition between the right and the left atrium, how it is produced. So these are all the things we are going to see clearly in this video. Now let's move on to the video. Now let's see how the primitive atrium changes occur. So the transversely oriented common atrial chamber, which communicates ventrally with the bulboventricular cavity through the atrioventricular canal. So now what happens? The ventral and the dorsal wall of the atrioventricular canal of the mesenchymal cells proliferate to form the ventral and dorsal endocardial cushion. So the ventral and dorsal endocardial cushion is going to fuse and form a septum intermedium. So this is what we have seen in this picture. So this one is septum intermedium, which is formed by the proliferation of ventral and dorsal endocardial cushion. So now this septum intermedium is the one which is going to divide the atrioventricular canal into right and left atrioventricular orifice. So the septum intermedium is the one which divides the atrioventricular canal into right of and left of the atrioventricular orifice. Now at the 5th week, the dorsal wall of the primitive atrium. So here the dorsal wall of the primitive atrium is going to receive the sinoatrial orifice. And this going to shift to the right side by the development of the sinoatrial fold. And this is a sinoatrial orifice which is going to guarded by two valves. So which is going to guarded by the right and left venous valves. So this project into the atrium. Now both the valves, the right and the left valve, unite at the cephalic end. Forms a fold-like structure, that is septum spurium. So this septum spurium, which extends furtherwards and forms the roof of the right atrium. So this is about the cephalic end. Now what happens to the caudal part? This caudal part of the venous valves meet together and here it forms a sinus septum. So when the formation of atrioventricular cushion are in progress, there is an internal separation of atrium into right and the left part by the development of septum primum. So this septum primum is going to separate the right and the left part. So this septum, which grows as a sickle-shaped fold from the roof and dorsal wall of the primitive atrium, and this occur in a median plane. So now the attachment of septum primum is situated slightly to the left of the septum spurium. So it is the development occurs situated slightly to the left of the septum spurium. At first the caudal edge, so this is the caudal edge. At first the caudal edge of the septum primum is free and concave, which is directed towards the septum intermedium. So there is a gap is formed between the septum primum and septum intermedium, and this gap is called as foramen primum. Now, the progressive growth of the septum primum occurs. That is, the progression of the growth from the septum primum occurs, and this going to fuse with the septum intermedium. So this closes the foramen primum. So during this process, another opening develops which is called foramen secundum. This occurs by the degeneration of the cephalic part of the septum primum. And this formation of foramen secundum, it is important in fetal life. Why? Because the passage of blood from the right atrium to the left atrium occurs through this opening only. So the passage of blood from the right atrium to the left atrium from inferior vena cava. So later a thick partition is developed, that is a thick partition grows on the right side of the septum primum from the roof of the right atrium, and this growth is called as septum secundum. The caudal edge of the septum secundum, it looks like a sickle shaped fold and which is having a free margin. This caudal edge of the septum secundum, which grows rapidly to overlap the cephalic margin of the septum primum. So now this valvular opening is appear between the septum primum and the septum secundum, and this opening in future we can call it as foramen ovale. So through this foramen ovale, the blood passes from the right atrium to the left atrium, and this occurs throughout the fetal life. So the pressure of blood from the right atrium is higher than the pressure in the left atrium. So after birth, the functioning of that is the complete functioning of the lung and the pulmonary circulation occurs. So at that time, the blood from the according to the pulmonary circulation, the blood enters into the left atrium, then the left atrial pressure increases. As a result, after birth, as a result of this, the septum primum is pushed towards the septum secundum and closed forever. So thus, this closure of the opening occurs after birth. So the pressure in the left atrium makes the septum spurium to close to the septum secundum. So this makes a tight compact structure occur between the septum secundum and septum primum, so that the closure occurs, that the foramen ovale is closed after birth. So after birth, the caudal edge of the septum secundum persists as limbus fossa ovalis, and the septum primum persists as fossa ovalis. Now, this interatrial septum formation occurs, and this separates the right and the left atrium. So like this, the development of the interatrial septum occurs, and that divides the right atrium and the left atrium. I think this video will be useful to you to understand the exact division of the right atrium and the left atrium, which is derived from the primitive atrial part. Thank you friends. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please share and subscribe.